how do you engage and motivate your students in their learning? Well, today we're going to be talking about a subject that directly relates to that question, and we're going to be looking at the subject of gamification. Anyway, we've got a bit to get through, so let's get straight into things. Let's learn, share, and teach. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time you're here, my name is Mr. K. I'm a primary school, elementary school teacher, and a very proud parent. I've geared my channel towards helping students, parents, and teachers to better learn, share, and teach to get the best learning outcomes for students. Now, if this sounds like something you might be interested in, please do us both a favor and hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure to hit the notification bell so that you're notified anytime I upload a new video. Excellent. So let's get into today's subject, which is gamification. Now, what is gamification? Well, gamification is a development approach within education that looks at increasing learners' motivation and engagement by incorporating different game design elements in the educational environment. It really falls within the realms of the incentivization of learning. Now, let's talk about a couple of terms that often get mixed up, and let's make them a little bit more clear on how they are different. So the first one I will talk about is game-based learning. Now, game-based learning is all about using an actual game to reach a learning objective. For example, you could use Monopoly to teach elements of economics, or you could use Yahtzee to teach elements of mathematics. Now, gamification is a little bit different. Gamification is all about using game elements as motivational tools, such as badges, leadership boards, or point systems. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Now, why gamification? Why are we interested in this? Well, Professor John Hattie, who is the famous author of Visible Learning, has mentioned in a workshop that the gaming world really gets assessment right because, number one, games know what you can and can't do, and they keep a record of what you've achieved. And with that information, they go ahead and scaffold your learning. So they're putting you into your next level, and that's their idea of your next zone of proximal development. They also use the Goldilocks theory to place you at the just right level. They make it a little bit harder, not too much harder, as in to make it so hard you don't want to play. And they make sure there's a bit of a challenge so it keeps you interested and engaged. Games also give you deliberate opportunities to practice, which is really related to deliberate practice, of course. They also motivate us to spend hours in the pursuit of learning, and they're very good at that. Just have to ask my son. They also want you to play and keep playing their game forever and be a lifelong learner of that game. There's such a thing. So in a nutshell, what they try and do is make the hard things fun. Now, what's the empirical evidence behind this that really says that gamification is worth looking at today? Well, as you know, Professor John Hattie went out there and did his meta-analysis of all the elements that have an impact on student learning outcomes. And he established a measurement called an effect size, or he used an old measurement called an effect size, which he said that any element that has an effect size greater than 0.4, if done regularly over a year with a student, that student will gain more than a year's worth of learning from utilizing that element of teaching. Okay. So what was the effect size for gamification? Well, the effect size for gamification was way above 0.4. It was, if you incorporate all these elements we've talked about on what games get right, it adds up to 0.78, which is almost double that of 0.4. So you could basically say that if you use gamification regularly in the classroom throughout the year, students could possibly learn up to 2 years worth of knowledge in 1 year. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so how do you gamify your educational environment? So the following is a method that I've used in the past that I've had some success with. So yeah, try it and see how it works for you. So step number one is preparing the students for the gamification of the classroom. I start off with providing the students with the vision of how I'm going to gamify the classroom and a statement that really sets out what I believe that environment will look like. It could be something like this: all students will be empowered to learn and achieve, to experience high quality teaching and the best engaging conditions for learning, which will equip them with knowledge, skills, and a disposition for lifelong learning and to shape the world around them. Now, I find that one a little bit complex and I would break that down. But to build on that, I would also let students know that they will be learning through activities that employ elements from the games that they enjoy. Okay, I'll even extend it even more and mention they would be competing against themselves and other people in their classroom. And finally, the most important one is that they will see themselves improve through behavior and also academic performance. Excellent. Now, the second part to preparing your students is really setting up the right culture in the classroom. A lot of people say competition within the classroom, yeah, it isn't such a good thing. But throughout life, children and adults are always faced with competition. And what better place for students to learn about how to be a good winner or a good loser than in your classroom? Okay. Now, when we go ahead and set up the culture on, how to compete, I really bring in, first of all, the growth mindset. And here is a great example of a fantastic diagram I love, which originates from the work of Carol Dweck, and it really compares what a fixed and a growth mindset is. We go through that with the kids and really repetitively throughout the year discuss growth and fixed mindset and really push the kids towards getting that growth mindset. Then the next thing that we try and do is talk about, what is a good winner, what is a good loser, and what is a sore winner and what is a sore loser, okay? And some of the tools that you could use for that are like these ones that you can see on the screen now. And then finally, what we do talk about is when games start and finish and what should happen at those moments. So when a game finishes, obviously it should be, thanks very much for the game, look forward to the next one. Awesome. Now, on to step two. Now, step two is assessing your students. So, first of all, you've got to identify the students' trouble spots. And you can do that by basically giving them a pre-test of some sort, okay? But it might be observation as well, where you kind of like have a look and see how they're behaving or what they're actually doing. It doesn't have to be, a paper test or something like that. Then you survey your class and you find out things like what your students' interests are, because that'll help you kind of like put a theme on your gamification. You'll also be able to identify the games that they play and research those games to find out the language and the incentives that are actually within those games. So you're really kind of like employing the language they're familiar with and the incentives that they're familiar with through their favorite games. Cool. Okay, step three, define learning goals. Well, learning goals are not just about academics. It's actually about behavioral goals as well. Now, learning goals when it comes to academics is really about helping students to understand concepts and develop skills, while their behavioral goals will help them to concentrate and work more efficiently, and also help the class to work more efficiently as well. Then what you want to do is structure open projects to help meet these goals. So you could provide them with the opportunity to do presentations, creative pieces, papers or essays, basically a unique product that's appropriate for the given topic. Now, presenting choices really encourages students to test themselves in new ways and demonstrate their strong suits or abilities in certain areas. Okay, step four, structure the gamified learning experience. So what this actually entails is you need to adjust your scoring system in the sense that marks can be the most nerve-wracking part of school. So highlighting progress instead of mistakes is very important. An improvement over the idea of higher score. So always show them how much they've improved, not if they've got the highest score or the lowest score. That's not important. It's how much they've improved. Also on tests and assignments, you can give scores both traditionally and in the form of experience points, which is really relating to the terminology that a lot of them have from their games that they play at home. Use stages. Stages are a great tool to engage. Clearly, you're illustrating skill building progression. Okay, try calling these obviously stages, because that's what we see a lot in the games that the kids use. But like I said, you'll survey the kids, and maybe they don't use that terminology, but a lot of them do. Also, frame certain tasks as prerequisites to reach the next level. So this is, basic game design element that we see in all the games we've played. And then finally, unless a student does homework or participates in the class and completes quizzes, they won't be ready for the next challenge or the next challenges. So that's sort of like a prerequisite idea, and yeah, it's a great motivator to get them to do that work. Okay, step 5, identifying resources. So what you could do is create a manual and organize teams. Now, the manual is a great way of actually gamifying a rubric or a course outline. And the content of that manual could be, for example, how stages work, what kinds of assignments the students will tackle, your new scoring system, including the way students can gain XP. Now, there are a lot more titles or subheadings you can put in there in your manual, but you get the idea of how it will gamify that rubric or course outline. The next thing you could do is organize studying and learning teams. Now, this opens the door to group work and collaboration, but helps replicate a core element of almost any game: instant adaptive feedback, which is super important from your peers. And when they've got a shared outcome, like as in collaborative learning, you see them a lot more motivated to help each other as well. Now, also having these organized study and learning teams, what you want to do is devote a brief session to teach students about sharing constructive criticism and encouraging them to actively give comments while working in teams. Cool. Step 6, applying gamification elements. So one element that you can apply also is make progress visible. Okay, now showing their achievement since the start of the year becomes a real social element of gamification, promoting a sense of student community and emphasizing the message, guys, you did this together, well done. Now, a way that you could display it in the classroom could be through a skill mastery bar with the amount of XP that a student has earned progressively throughout the year. Now, another thing that you could do is also get students to submit code names for themselves that suit the game's theme. Now, a side benefit of this is that if you want to not make public who's struggling or excelling, this code names method is a great way of doing just that. Another element that you want to employ for your gamification of the classroom would be offering rewards. Now, this encourages students to acknowledge their accomplishments and continue their progress. Now, this offering of awards is really a hallmark element of contemporary gaming, and it plays a big role in creating an engaging experience, continuously incentivizing and motivating students. So in summary, 6 steps to setting up the gamification of your classroom. Step number 1, prepare the students. Explain the vision you have for gamifying your classroom, what it will look like. Also, set up the right culture in the classroom. Talk about what a good and a bad loser is, what a good and a bad winner is. Talk about the growth mindset. Talk about how a game should start, how a game should finish, okay? Step number 2, assess your students' trouble spots and also survey them for their interests and the games they're playing, so you can take elements from those games and employ them in your class gamification. Step number 3, define learning goals. Now, this is not just academic goals, it's also behavioral goals as well. Also, structure open projects to help them meet their individual learning goals. Step number 4, structure gamified learning experiences. Adjust your scoring system so it's not about the person getting the highest score, it's about the person who improves the most. Okay, it's all about improvement. Use stages. Say to students that they have to complete a certain unit before they can move on to the next one and get more XP or experience points, or they have to complete some bit of homework before they move on to the next stage and get the next lot of experience points. Step number 5, identify resources. Create a manual, okay? Gamify your course outline, gamify your rubric, organize studying and learning teams so that you've got that collaborative learning happening where they've got that shared outcome or that shared goal and they're helping each other learn. Step number 6, apply gamification elements such as making progress visible. One way you can do this is by providing a skill mastery bar graph that's visual, that shows students progress throughout the year in XP, okay? And then finally, one of the most important elements of gamifying your classroom is offer rewards, because this will incentivize their learning and motivate them to go ahead and learn because of the celebration that they can actually do with receiving an award. Excellent. Or reward. Yeah, cool. Excellent. Thanks, guys, for tuning in today. I hope you got a bit out of it, and good luck in gamifying your classroom. Bye. Thanks for watching one of my videos. If you've enjoyed the content or you just want to show your support, please just click the subscribe button down below. You hitting the subscribe button lets me know that you'd like to see more content from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe.